Hello friends, it's so great to be back making videos again. I have absolutely missed it. About a 10-month break I took after the birth of my sixth baby, our daughter Astrid, and she is incredible. She's doing so well. She's crawling. It has been so much fun watching her grow. I adore her. She makes me want to have 50 more babies. Probably not a good plan considering we have 6 already, but it's just been incredible. And I wanted to come on to share a little bit of my wisdom after having 6 babies. I went about this birth in a much different way than I did my others. So my first 2 were in the hospital, and those were very different. And the other 4 were all home births. But that aside, I went into these births with a different kind of mind frame than I did the last one. And I feel like this approach that I took was so helpful that I wanted to share it with you, because it wasn't something that I would have expected to be so monumental in creating such an incredible birth experience, but just this little tiny change really did make such a difference. With all of my other births, I kind of wanted to micromanage things, wanted to birth in this position, and I was very, very controlling of the situation in general. And that's just human nature, Birth is kind of this big unknown, especially if you've never gone through it before, and even if you have. There are just so many variables that come into play that are scary, and they can cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. Unknowns in general are just that way. But we as humans, when we find ourselves in that situation, we tend to like to control what we can surrounding this big unknown. And having been a birth worker and working with a lot of pregnant women and birthing women, I know that this is just a common tendency that we have surrounding birth. So you'd think, having gone through birth 5 times prior to this last one, I would have a very good handle on how my body goes through this labor and birth process. However, all of my births were so different, and that is true with everybody. Having been a birth doula and a midwife birth assistant, I've seen so many births, sometimes from mamas who've had multiple births that I've attended. And even with my own, I've had very fast and pretty much painless labors to very, very, very drawn out and uncomfortable labors. So I really didn't know what to expect going into this one, since I've had such a broad spectrum of experiences, especially with my last birth. He just would not get in the right position, and I just could not maneuver him correctly. And it wasn't until we manually popped my water that I was able to actually even birth him after a couple days of labor. So I was very uncomfortable trying to figure out how I was going to mentally enter the space of labor and birth with this baby. I wanted to try something new because of my anxiety around the last birth that I had had. That being said, I decided just to let go and not have any expectations and not have any plans at all for this birth. And you'd think that would be pretty simple to do. But again, when you're in a place of unknowns and you're kind of out of control and you don't know what to expect, and you just want to cling to some sort of control. And the best way to do that is to just start planning. And I think a lot of us really do that, especially with birth. And I fought every urge to do that with this one. I provided myself with the tools that I thought I could possibly use in the birth. I had some woven baby wraps hanging from a pull-up bar so that I could use those to kind of hang And I had a birth ball. I had a birth pool set up. I had my bed set up. I had my bath set up. I had all these different tools just at my disposal, just waiting for me to use them in case I needed them. But I did not set up a plan. I didn't even plan to get into the birth pool. I thought, if my body tells me that I want to birth in bed, then that's where I will. And if I end up in the bathtub, then that's where I will have her. And it was such an incredibly freeing experience that I feel like it helped labor progress so much faster. And it also helped me be so much more present with the experience and what my body needed when it needed it. I am all for birth plans, and I think birth plans are extremely important, especially if you're having a birth in a hospital. If you have a doula or a midwife, generally they talk these things over with you so that they know what you want. However, a birth plan is much different than micromanaging your labor. If you have these needs and wants that have some sort of weight beyond just grasping at control, and you'll know what those things are. If there's some reasoning that's a health reason for you or for the baby, a logistics reason that has some sort of solid basis, then yes, put that in your birth plan and make sure that that happens. However, the rest of the stuff, I highly recommend, from experience with my last birth, to leave it very open and fluid and organic. And I'll tell you what, I was so much more in tune with what I needed. So with my past labors, I had a plan of going from the bed where I would labor there, or in my living room on the birth ball, and then I would make my way to doing squats over here, and then I would use this tool over here, and then maybe I'd take a shower, and then I had this path that I was trying to control the experience. And what that ended up happening when I was actually in labor is I felt like I was kind of confined to these plans. And I also found that I was not present. I was always kind of looking forward to the next step, or second guessing my control, which of course is kind of hard on the empowerment that you need to feel at the time, second guessing anything. So with this last birth, having absolutely no plans, but having all these tools available to me, I was so incredibly present with everything that I was doing that I could actually really feel what I needed at that moment, that there was nothing expected of me from myself or from anyone else. And because of that, I was able to go through the experience almost in, I would say, like a daze. I almost felt like high, it was so different from my other experiences where I felt like I was constantly maybe fighting a little bit or constantly looking forward. It was always a defense or an offense type of a situation instead of a completely present situation. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm not going to be sharing my birth story for this particular birth. It was wonderful. It was long until I got into active labor, and everything before that was not uncomfortable at all. It was just a sequence of tons of contractions for, like 18 hours. And then when active labor started, it honestly went by so fast and in this beautiful haze of excitement and presence that it would be hard for me to even verbalize the experience in a birth story, which I was able to do with the rest of them. Not saying that they weren't incredible experiences in their own right, but this one was really magical and unique. And I really feel like that has a lot to do with the fact that I let go of control of any sort of plans for this birth. So if I could part some wisdom to you after my 6 labors, that would be my best advice to you. Make a solid birth plan on the things that actually have some basis in your health or the baby's health that are very, very important to you that need to be done. Around that, anything around that, give yourself the tools, whether it be arming yourself with pain management tools or arming yourself with birth balls and rebozos or woven wraps or anything that would help with labor. But then having absolutely no plan at all on how it's going to go. Let your body dictate what you need, and don't put yourself in any sort of confined mental space, because it's such an incredible experience and there's no way at all that you can control it. Letting it just happen and unfold organically in the beautiful way that it's supposed to will allow your body to open up even more, will allow your brain and your energy just to be in sync with the process of birthing your baby. I think that it will make for a much more comfortable experience and a much more enjoyable experience overall. I hope this was helpful. I'm so excited to be making videos again. I have so many topics to cover with you guys. I hope you all have been well through all this craziness with the pandemic. It's been a year for sure. So thank you again for tuning in. I'm excited to see you next time, and until next time, be well.